I speak as a person who has a disability and therefore frequently intersects with the healthcare system as a patient. Also, as a lawyer who's on the patient rights or patient advocacy side frequently, and I see initially it's not only that the individual who does need to access that healthcare and feel like a human, it does not only just have its own intrinsic rewards. It also, I believe, it assists the physician who's providing the healthcare to feel better about their work, about the impact they're having on the people that they've dedicated their career to. Also, I believe the health outcomes are much better. I can, again, speak from a personal perspective, feeling engaged and connected with the person providing me both the service and medical advice, makes me feel empowered, makes me feel interested and connected to the individual in the system providing those services. I wish to engage with and improve my own health. Also, what I've been able to observe with both clients and friends with disabilities who also require healthcare, I believe that the health outcomes are much greater. That's a personal perspective. I haven't seen the literature on it. I'm pretty sure the literature would bear that out also.
Okay, thank you. So you are actually speaking about humanizing healthcare, the patient perspective, which is like almost like the whole conference in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. But maybe you could tell me a little bit sort of how you developed an interest in the area of law that you're in as a patient advocate and just a little bit about your journey to get there.
When I was 18 years old, I had a spinal cord injury at the C5 level. I certainly, at that time, I was playing rugby. I had no thoughts on healthcare, although I did grow up in a family of where my father was worked as in health promotion and health advocacy. So I believe that at a very young age, I had a strong introduction to the world of health, to the world of health. At the time of my accident, I was, as I said, I was 18. I really was not thinking of that as a career path. I was interested over the long term of attending law school. But what it did give me, the accident gave me a deeply impactful experience about what it was like to spend a very prolonged period within the medical model or a healthcare system. And as a very young, really young person, although at 18, I believe I was thinking I was already exceedingly mature, I was not. And so it was highly impactful on what it was like to experience a life of, at that point, feeling very, very individuated, alone in my room, having to pass the time without a sense of belonging. There was chaos around me. There was certainly people trying to do their best to, at that point, really help me to maintain life. But it was the systems that I was within as I rehabilitated that I really was given an exposure to what would have been a highly foreign land to me. I had no idea about the systems or healthcare corporate culture or where I fit in to this chaos as I was 18 and now suddenly was paralyzed from my chest down. I believe that did deeply impact my own personal experience, although I should say not long after that and after rehab. I think for a long period I felt I'll just get on with it. I had only just started university, so I went back to university and then law school and started my career. And during that time, I was keenly interested in human rights and disability rights. However, this journey has really brought me, I think, much, much closer to, yes, I love and am interested in human rights, disability rights activism, disability rights advancement at a public advocacy level. But the place within disability where I think there is the most vulnerability and where individuals within this group can benefit the most due to their acute vulnerabilities is one of patient advocacy. And so that's where, and I think, or I hope I have some thoughts on it and some perspective, because I had this very deeply impactful experience when I was 18 from a lens or perspective that very few people do see. And now that I am at a later stage in both my life and career, I hope that that experience can now be returned in a positive fashion to contribute to the larger advancement and development of the healthcare system and how it intersects with patients or individuals and their experience within that healthcare system.
Oh, thank you. I honestly can't wait to hear you speak. So when you think about that whole trajectory, what person or event had the biggest impact on you in your professional career?
I'm sorry, what person or event? I just need a second for that answer.
Sure, of course.
The event that was most impactful, and I believe this will resonate with anyone who's listening today, because I'm sure everyone has witnessed a colleague who may have had not only ambivalence, but very serious disregard for the wellness of the person they're treating. This was probably about 8 weeks after my accident. It was post ICU, but I was still in a pretty bad way, and I developed a UTI that was extremely serious. So serious that the most responsible physician, the urologist most responsible, stayed very late that night as my fever continued. And the best I can recall, although I was in and out of consciousness, is there was also a couple of residents and a couple of nurses in my room, exceedingly concerned about my fever and the antibiotics and whether the antibiotics would be effective. They were. I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning, and as one might imagine, after my fever broke, I was incredibly thirsty, dehydrated in a way I had never experienced before. And no one was answering my call to the nursing station. So I was shouting for assistance, and no one was coming. I just wanted water. I just wanted water. And finally someone came, gave me a small glass of water, and refused to give me more, although I was so deeply dehydrated. And I was truly suffering. Had a night of this excessive fever and UTI, and I was so dehydrated. nothing was helping me. And the nurse literally walked away. And at that point, as she was leaving, my nose started to bleed. And I began to soak my bed sheet and gown, and it wouldn't stop. At that point, I mean, I could shrug my shoulders and have some bicep movement now. At that time, I couldn't move my arms at all. I was fully paralyzed from the shoulders down. And I couldn't do anything to block the bleeding, my nose, and no one was coming. No one came for a very long time. And certainly it wasn't until the next shift arrived on rounds that impacted me. It helped me to understand what a human's disregard for other humans can literally do, especially when they're vulnerable. And I believe that certainly, I guess I need to thank that nurse for her disregard for my wellness, because I certainly learned that can be horrific for anyone who's on the receiving end.
Wow.
That was the event. And in terms of the other persons at the other end of that spectrum or continuum is a very positive experience. And it's not one individual, although when impacted by a spinal cord injury, and I believe any catastrophic injury or illness, family and loved ones are the core and most important. It sounds very easy to say that. So I won't point to one person. I would point to the core people of course, my family is. As funny as they may have been at the time, there was no doubt for their unconditional love and commitment to my betterment in a very, very difficult, troubled time. And also deep friendships, friends who stayed with me before my accident, during the acute phase of my accident, and continue in the deep friendships today as we've seen our mutual families grow, and we are our own chosen family. So I won't necessarily credit one person. I will credit that core for having also helped me in times of low confidence, helped me in times of despair, showing me love in a way that everyone needs to feel. And so they've, on the other side, been this wonderful, beneficial experience. And I think that's given me then the confidence to go back to school, the maybe blind joie de vivre at times that true friendships and love can give someone.
Oh, that's great. So the last thing is, usually at the end of each session, we gave away a book recommended by the speaker, and people really like that. So I want to ask you, what's your favorite book that we can give away, and why do you like it?
Well, I know it's the end of May, and this will be October. But right now, I just received, by the way, I'm so thankful that my mother's currently at end stages Alzheimer's, and she, of course, is in long-term care. And I have received permission to go visit her as an essential caregiver in order to support her in cognitive and emotional supports. And as a quadriplegic, I was very worried, very, very worried that they want me to be able to push her chair, or to wash her hair, or do these PSW type work.
Right.
And I, of course, couldn't do it. They took, speaking of an intersection with healthcare, what a positive experience with the people administering or managing her long-term care home, and also the staff, that they wanted to embrace that mom has a family member, and to heck with his disability, he's going to be a very positive impact to her emotional well-being. I hope that I am. Her Alzheimer's is very, very advanced, but I will then, when I'm with her, play music that I knew she loved before her dementia. And also, now that I'm just allowed back, I'm going to pick up again where I left off. I was reading Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, which seems somewhat appropriate given her dementia. So right now I'm reading Mom, her Through the Looking Glass, and so maybe that is the book.
Okay, that's great. It's interesting because you have really surprised me with the book choice that you've given me, and another physician really surprised me with her book, because neither of them, they're both kind of cultural books, which I think really help us a lot in kind of grappling with things that are going on. And these authors have such great themes in their books that you can really apply to everyday life.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And Through the Looking Glass is great too. Suddenly you start seeing so many animals as symbols. You have to check yourself.